Well, hello again. My name's Adrian Gilbert, and if you've been following this channel, you've probably seen I've done lots of lectures on the Book of Revelation and on other subjects too. But I've got something really important to tell you today. I'm starting a totally new venture. We discussed and talked about, well, I've sort of mentioned the Invisible College, but at the moment it's been sort of on the back burner. It's not been an active thing other than these lectures I've been doing. But that's all about to change. I'm setting up a new Invisible College, which I did originally, I think in 2008. But for various reasons I had to stop that one. But I'm starting it again, and I'm going to be putting lots of lectures on there and guidance for those who wish to be involved with it at a deeper level than just watching the odd video on YouTube. Now, how did this come about? Why do I think that I should be someone putting a new Invisible College on the internet? Well, I could go right back, right back, but I think a good starting point would be to talk about when I went to Israel the first time, which was in 1972. A long time ago now, nearly 50 years in fact. And while I was there, I went there because I was on a quest for knowledge, a quest for initiation really. And at the time I had in my mind that I would go to Israel. In fact, a friend of mine and I recycled there, or most of it. Some bits we'd had to go by sea, so we couldn't cycle that. But our idea was we were going to go to Israel and be in Bethlehem for Christmas. I mean, it was one of those things you think up when you're in a pub. And you think, what can we do? What would be fun? And we thought, oh, yeah, let's go to Bethlehem. We'll be there for Christmas. And it was probably about sort of the beginning of September when we came to this idea. We bought a couple of bicycles and set out. But that wasn't my full intention. My intention was to go on from there to India, because I was very much into yoga at the time. And I had this idea that if I could only get myself to India, I would find myself a nice guru who would teach me the inner teachings of yoga, that I would become an enlightened person and sort of do it that way. And that was not an unusual idea at the time. Lots of people were doing that sort of thing in the late 60s and early 70s. But anyway, I got to Israel and I worked on a kibbutz for a short time, and then I went to Tel Aviv and I worked in a hostel there. And while I was working in the hostel, I also had a subsidiary job working in an art school as a model. I mean, I was a lot better looking in those days than I am now. But they pay you a little bit, and plus a bit from the youth hostel, making breakfasts and looking after the people there. I would earn enough for my airfare, or to go on to India, or perhaps to go, as people did in those days, you would take a boat from Eilat, which is in the southern part of Israel, on the Red Sea, and you would go down the Red Sea and you would go down to East Africa. I think it was Mombasa in Kenya that people would go to, and then you could get a boat from there to India. And that was my sort of rough plan of action. But while I was in Israel, a lady I met at the art school, in fact, we got chatting. I became quite friends with a number of the students there. And she said, well, what are your plans, Adrian? What are you planning on doing? And I said, well, I'm going to go to India, see if I can find a nice guru. And she said, for God's sake, she said, don't do that. She said, I grew up in India. My father was a professor in Delhi. And we saw loads of young men like you come along, and they would try to understand the Indian Hindu tradition, and they wouldn't understand their own tradition. They wouldn't understand the Hindu tradition, so they'd have two half understoods, and they'd become totally confused, mixed up, and they'd ruin their lives. She said, what I advise you to do is go back home to Europe, to Britain, and study your own tradition. Find out what it's really all about. And when you've done that, when you've really got a grasp on your own tradition, then go to India if you must, because then you'll be secure. You'll have grown in your understanding and knowledge and wisdom of your own tradition. And when you go to India and you meet the yogis or whoever, you'll have a much better time of understanding where they're coming from and what the differences are between what they're teaching and what you know from your own tradition. So I thought about this, and I thought, well, yeah, actually, she's got a point, you know. Although I was brought up, I went to one of the top Catholic schools in England. I know a great deal about Catholicism, but I didn't really understand anything about what it was really all about. And I certainly wasn't interested in all of that, going to church and sacraments and all of that. I had done with that. I'd had an overdose as a boy. But I was interested to find out about what it might really be all about and what the truth is about what she called the Western tradition. Now, I want to say here, I'm not talking about the Western magical tradition. I hate magic. I've got nothing to do with it. You can keep your Aleister Crowley books. I've no intention of having anything to do with any of that. That's not what I mean. What I mean is the inner teachings of particularly Christianity, but also to some extent Hermeticism, which was the inner teachings of ancient Egypt, and which in many respects gave birth to a lot of what we understand as Christian now. That takes some explaining, but I'm not going to go into that here. So I decided to go back and get into all of this, and I started reading my Bible again. I studied everything about King Arthur. In fact, I've written a couple of books on that. For example, A Holy Kingdom, which came out in 1998, actually. I co-authored it with two other guys, Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett, about the real King Arthur and who he was and how he lived in Wales. And I've done another one since then called Blood of Avalon, where I've taken that study much further. This is a more recent book. I think that one's still in print. You may find that very interesting. I was interested in the whole area to do with the Holy Grail and to do with the Rosicrucian movement and to do with the Knights Templars and all of this area of knowledge. There's a lot of rubbish written about all of this, believe me, but there's also some depth and truth in it. Now, at this point, I'm not going to go into any detail about that except to say that I am an initiate. Now, that's not something someone else, perhaps wearing a fancy robe and a big hat, bestows on you. It's something you go through spiritually, and it involves a supernatural event, and I'm not going to say any more about it than that. But I am an initiate, and I do understand these subjects very well. So I'm going to share with those of you who are interested in coming on a journey which might lead to your own initiation. Who knows? I'm not in control of that. But I can give you the preparation, because if you're going to go and climb Mount Everest, you'd be very well advised to find someone who's done it before, who can guide you, maybe take you up in the foothills and show you how to put in crampons, is it? They hammer into the rocks, and how to use ropes properly and how to do things safely, and all the things that you would need to do if you were going to climb Mount Everest. Now, going into this kind of work without any kind of instruction or teaching or guidance is difficult and dangerous, to say the least. And it's not that I had no guidance. I have had guidance. I've met a number of very interesting and advanced people in my life. Most of them dead now. So one has to take on the mantle and do the work. This is what it's all about, the work. And the work really is what I would call esoteric Christianity, Before you start saying, "Oh no, not more about Christ and all of that," I just want to point out that the Bible is the most esoteric book you're ever going to come across. That's why I've been doing lectures on it. And it's not what you think. It's not just a bundle of histories, some of them quite unpleasant histories, about he begat so-and-so, he begat so-and-so, and the tribe formed, and they go and kill another tribe, and blah, 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 and ends up with a crucifixion. And did this guy actually live? Did he resurrect from the dead? Did he ascend to heaven? What's it all about? Get back to the science. Attitude. It's not. The Bible is a rescue mission. It's a story of a rescue mission. And you've got to understand that on this planet, this is a fallen planet. And we're living on a fallen planet, and we're trapped here. And if you don't understand that, you won't understand the Bible at all. It's a rescue mission. It's not necessarily the first rescue mission that's been mounted. And we need to understand that, because we are coming to the point in the Bible which we're already in it, in the book of Revelation, and what's called the Apocalypse, the revealing. We're into that. And we're quite far advanced in it, actually. And you're going to see in your lifetime some pretty extraordinary events on this planet, frightening in the extreme. A lot of people are going to suffer in them. But there is also the possibility of leaving this planet and going to higher levels of creation where we came from. So, if that hasn't totally put you off, you might want to get involved peripherally, maybe at first, with the Invisible College. And I'm setting this up, as I say, and initially, if you just want to be, it's only going to be by subscription, and you have to join it. But to be an associate member, it will be free. If you want to go further on, I'm going to make some kind of charge. I have to, because this costs money doing this work. But I mean, if you want to make gifts, you can also do that. But I'm going to set it up because I feel everyone should have the opportunity of access, no matter how rich or poor or whatever they are. As long as they've got access to a mobile phone and they can get onto the internet, they will have something. I'm going to continue doing lectures on YouTube, but I'm also going to do other lectures for people who are more involved in the college itself. Now, if you want to contact me about any of this, perhaps you would like to become an associate member, which I say is free. I've got an email address for you. It's admin, which is ADMIN, dot Invisible College, that's all one word, at protonmail.com. So I'll say that again. admin.invisiblecollege at protonmail.com. I'm going to put that email address under here with this video. And I'd love to hear from you. Proton Mail is a very secure email server in Switzerland, I believe. And I feel that I want to keep this, more private, not just for me, but for people coming along as well who want to get involved. So it's not going to be on the old Hotmail or Gmail or whatever, where who knows who's reading your mail, because it's not encrypted. Proton Mail is a secure server. So we're doing it there in Switzerland, and Proton Mail are the people I'm going to work with. So admin.invisiblecollege at protonmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from at least some of you. And if you don't want to get involved, that's fair enough. That's your choice. You don't have to go any further than just watching the occasional video, which I'm going to continue putting them, or at least some of them, on YouTube. But the YouTube ones probably from now on are going to be more just short ones like this. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from some of you shortly. Okay, bye.